afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Strokers in Palm Harbor, Florida for continuing coverage of this year's U.S. Amateur Championship. This event, of course, presented by the American Pool Players Association. Our streaming coverage presented by our friends at PoolDog.com. I'm your host, Jason Bowman. I'm joined by 2010 U.S. Amateur Champion, local to the Tampa area now, Mr. Raymond Linares. What's up, Raymond?
How's it going?
Raymond's got a reprieve from baby duty for a little while. Decided to stop back by. Of course, we had you on yesterday doing some commentary. Appreciate you stopping back by. And I think we're going to see a good one, Raymond. We got Bobby Stovall, a newcomer, versus an old veteran that you've run across many of time, David Rowell.
Yeah, David Rowell. I mean, the first time I heard of David Rowell was in 2010 when I played, and he had knocked out a buddy of mine early on in the tournament. I think he had lost his second match in that event and was making the steady climb. I think he played my buddy like the round after, or the second round after that. And, of course, I was rooting for my friend, and then he ended up beating him. So I got to exact revenge in the finals. He came all the way back, which is really hard in this tournament, losing an early match and making the grind. So what that tells me about David is that he's super steady, very methodical, kind of like solid fundamentals. Is going to probably not beat himself. You're going to have to go up there and beat him.
For sure.
So he's real steady as they come. He's very experienced in this event. So,
you know anything about Bobby Stovall? He's a newcomer here.
I haven't heard his name
out of
before.
Cumming, Georgia. We'll get to know him throughout the match. Before we go to the table, let's run through the tournament format. Again, race to 7, combination 8-ball and 9-ball, 5 games of 8-ball, 8 games of 9-ball that we'll see, depending on the score, how many of those games play out. Double elimination. Both of these players have already absorbed a loss, which means one of them will be going home after this match. The other will move on, and the winner of the lag chooses the break or the format here. I believe David Rowell won the lag and has opted for the break. And before we go to the table, let's hear a quick word from our friends at PoolDog.com.
Tired of the same old when you're buying billiard supplies? Come shop with the big dogs at PoolDog.com. You want pool cues? We've got over 700. Balls, cases, accessories, no problem. Want help with your game? How does hundreds of free training articles sound? Want to shop offline? We'll mail you a free catalog. Hit us up online, PoolDog.com, or call 866-843-3294.
Players are ready. This is David Rowell at the table. David from Birmingham, Alabama, took the break, which means Bobby chose the 9-ball set, which is, I'm assuming that was your comment, yeah.
Yeah, so typically players will defensively pick 8-ball if they lose the lag. I know the year that I played, I just picked 9-ball because I wanted to start the set strong, and thankfully nobody put a 5 on me to start the match. And I say that because, you're at the business end of an elite amateur tournament, and these guys are very capable. So, you're hoping that maybe the rack doesn't lie perfect. You don't make the wing ball. Maybe the guy breaks and scratches. You're trying to hope. I know when I was in that position a couple times in my tournament, that was the hope. Like, maybe just hope he doesn't get out. If I can nab this first one, then maybe I can put a sequence together and take advantage. It looks like Bobby's at the table. It was a dry break. And there's a 1-2 carom on offer. Bobby's going to go full into this 2. I think he's probably going to want to favor hitting with a little draw, maybe trying to catch on the thin side and coming off the bottom rail. The 1's going to bank across table. So let's see if he can get shape. He got a nice favorable kiss. And that was kind of by design. You wanted to bank the 1 back and across. You want to bring the 1 out, the cue ball out to the middle, hopefully get a shot. And, he got rewarded by taking an offensive approach here.
Bobby's 65 years old. He's been playing pool since he was a teenager, so he is a seasoned veteran.
Absolutely.
Maybe new to the U.S. Amateur Championship, but I'm sure he's played in many of leagues and tournaments over the years.
Well, that reminds me a little bit of Henry Brote, right?
Yeah.
He's won it several times, and he's got to be in his 70s now. Didn't he win it a couple years ago or 3 years ago, something like that?
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I love about pool personally, that, even though you might be busy in a season of life, pool's going to be here for a while. And, Efren didn't really reach his maturity as a player till he got into his 40s, really.
Yeah.
I heard a stat that he didn't come to U.S. till he was in his mid-30s and didn't win his first major till he was about 34 here or something like that. So for you guys out there that are, I'm 28 and 29, I haven't won anything yet. I'm like, man, you haven't started playing this game yet.
Right.
So chill.
That's funny.
So, Bobby, I think, is a little thin for the carom, I think, and he's a little thin on the combo, but the combo, I think, will afford him position, though he's got to stretch out. So I think we'll see him overcut the 3 and float the 7 in, come down to the bottom rail for the 3 and control the ball nicely there. So on this table, I don't think this table plays as tight as table 4 or 5. So you have a little wiggle room, even though he looks a little flat. I think he might have a little angle to where he can manufacture something and either stun one rail to the right of the 4 or go up table past the side, depending on what he feels. So let's see what he decides. He had plenty of angle, floated it forward nicely, and used a little English. And he's actually on the good side of the 4 to where he's going to the left. He's just got to make, this one shot on the 4 and stay below the side, avoid the side pocket, and he'll have the 5, and I think the rest of the rack is pretty manageable.
Looks like Bobby's wife finished tied for 9th place here, according to his bio.
That's pretty strong.
We asked everybody if they, you want to give a shout out to anybody, and he mentioned his wife.
Was that this year?
I don't know. He just said his wife, who finished 9th through 12th
Okay.
here. So could have been this year, could have been another year, but
that's couples
sounds
goals
like
there.
sounds like they're quite the Jack and Jill team if you
Yeah.
ever run into them.
Yeah. So I think he's a little bit on the bottom side of the 5, so he'll probably just float over to the long cushion and bounce out. And ideally he can come a little bit low, but that might require a little inside English, so he might just take a flat angle and try and manufacture something with draw or stun. So like if he was on this line here, then he'd have a natural angle coming across table, but looks like he's a little flat, so he might be able to punch it to the long cushion. I don't think he can draw back because I think the 9's in the way, so I think we're going to see him stun forward.
Christian Teal has a 1-0 lead over Mike Lee on the other table.
That's going to be a good match as well. Very 2 offensive-minded players there.
Did get confirmation. Terry Stovall is his wife's name, and
awesome.
She did finish 9th this year. So
tremendous!
Congratulations to Terry.
Well, that's got to be like fun. Having somebody that is your life partner and is also interested in the things you're interested in.
It's kind of a rarity where we have husband wife that
Sure.
qualify. I know like Tammy and Troy Jones come to mind, but
right.
I can't think of anybody else over the years where they were both here.
Well, that's pretty strong. So. Okay, looks like Bobby did just that. He stunned up table, and he got a little flat on the 8, which, tends to happen if you don't get perfect on that first recovery shot. You're, usually trying to just shoot 2 or 3 recovery shots in a row. He's, giving himself a chance here just to make the 9, and it's, personal preference here, how he wants to go about shooting the 9. Likely he'll try and, use a little stun, a little low left, and come around 2 rails and protect the cue ball. And he did just that.
Pockets the 9 in the corner to take a 1-0 lead.
And I noticed, too, that ball went into the pocket with a nice, crisp, firm stroke, but the cue ball wasn't out of control, which tells me that he's feeling good and comfortable. And, you're in the 3rd day of a tournament. You're probably in stroke, accustomed to the table, not really adjusting anymore. You're trying to just impose yourself. So looks like Bobby's got early control.
Bobby was undefeated coming into this.
Yeah.
This day, he suffered his first loss just a round ago to Abe Shade, the defending champion. So, solid first tournament, one way or another, for Bobby Stovall, now facing another former champion, David Rowell. David absorbed an earlier round loss, but has managed to fight his way through the 1-loss bracket. David out of Birmingham.
Mr. Rowell. I think I'm friends with David on Facebook, and I might be mistaken, but I think he's either building cues now as well, or does some, cue repair type stuff.
He's got all kinds
Tinkering
of,
and
he's,
stuff.
I know he definitely does his own custom cues. I remember that. One time he had a pool room.
That's awesome, yeah.
All right, nice break.
Yeah, nice break. He's got a shot on the 1 in the corner, and he's going to be going into the 4 and 2. I think if I were him, I'd probably want to go into the top of the 4 with a little right English, because you'll separate off the 4, hit the cushion, and give yourself a chance to get a shot on the 2. Now the 4 might clip the 2 a little bit and leave a combination if he does that. If he just goes in with a high ball, he might hit one of those 2 balls thin and might not develop it there. Might stay too close to the line.
This is technically a 1 p.m. match. Both of these matches got underway a little early. We have gone to continuous play here on the final day at the U.S. Amateur Championship in an effort to keep things as on time as possible. Typically, as we get into the later matches, they take a little bit longer, and so we're hoping to kind of build some time there on the front end if we can. We'll see.
So it looks like he did just that. He went into the top of the 4 with a little right English and banked the 4 away, and now has a perfect shot on the 2 with a nice angle to come up for the 3. So that's an ideal execution of that shot. So it tells me that Bobby is not only cool under pressure right now, but also a knowledgeable player managing a sensitive situation and still getting position. So,
was the year you won the championship? Was that the year that we were playing till like 2 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah. So that year.
So now you know why we do continuous play.
No, that year we
the ladies played
and
too.
Men played at the same time, and I remember waiting for the ladies match to finish. It was Amy Chen and Kelly Kavanaugh, and they went double hill. They played a really long match, and it was like 3 hours. And I remember it kind of affected me because I had a routine going where I would eat an hour and a half before every match, and I had the same meal after every time that I was going to eat, throughout the tournament. So every 2 rounds I'd have the same meal, which was chicken. It was like the grilled chicken with rice and vegetables.
Yeah.
And just enough I knew that when I got up and played, I'd have energy for the match and maybe a second round, and then I could refuel.
Yeah.
But I'd sat for so long that when I got up, I remember feeling like the Tin Man. Like my joints
were
like frozen. Like the carbs from the rice had turned into like sugar, and it gotten past the window where I was actually using it as energy. And I remember trying to shake myself loose and awake, and it took me like, I think the first 4 or 5 games of the match before I started feeling good. And I'm glad David didn't put a big package on me, because I remember I made 1 or 2 mistakes in the early part, and I only finished up like 7-4 ahead in the 9 ball, and I felt like I should have been up way more. And I made a couple mistakes that I wasn't making during the tournament. I was playing really well, and I remember that affected me. But then we got late, and then we ended,
Yeah, it was early morning hours before we wrapped up. So you can see why we've made some modifications to the schedule in the final day.
I think it was we had a bigger pool room as well. It was the strokers
it was the old strokers,
right? So it's kind of makes sense to have both tournaments at the same time. But I like the way they stagger it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It gives the women their opportunity.
Focus on the ladies. Focus on the open. Yeah.
And they get more table time and screen time, which is a nice benefit for them. You know what I mean? We're going to get a handful more matches, and a lot of times you don't get that experience. So, well, anyways, Bobby's handling this rack really nicely, and he's playing. I kind of really like his cue ball speed right now. He hasn't really shown me too much as far as bad cue ball speed, and that's really important. It shows me the guy's in control of his game and playing, solid pool. So that's a good sign for Bobby Stovall fans. He might just come across here 1 rail, play the 9 in the same pocket. You got to get up a little. He kind of halved it a little bit. He didn't really commit to the stroke, because of course as soon as I say a comment about his cue ball speed, he gets on the 50-yard line. But I'd guess he's favored to make this. It looks like he's going back for an extension.
Bobby, another guy who was played a long time but took an extended absence of about 20 years when he had when he got married and had a daughter.
Yeah.
So it started back in 2017. But
right.
So he's picked up right where he left off. It looks like.
That's awesome. Well, I
guess
kind
it's
of
like riding a bike, you can always pick it back up, right?
Yeah. It's one of those things where if you can just get yourself back in stroke and dust off the cobwebs, you'll probably regain some of your old skills. So that was a nice shot on the 9.
Bobby takes a 2-0 lead in that race to 7 over here on table 5, 6. What table is this?
This is table 5.
Table 5. You've got Chris Gentile, Port St. Lucie, Florida.
Looks
Mike
like
Lee, Chris
somebody's
up
up
2-0.
2-0. Good, yeah. Yeah, so I was watching a little bit of the match with Chris in the last round where he lost. He missed that 1-8 ball. I think Jeremy had called it where he says just don't baby this 1-8 ball, because he was on the rail a little bit and he floated it and he hung it, and that cost him basically the match, because his opponent kind of took off and got control. But Chris is a real good player. He's from the South Florida area, so I've played with him quite a bit and know his game. And at home, I was thinking even though he might not be known. I know Abe is a current defending champion from the position he was in, leading 4-2 in that match. I would have said that he was favored to win the tournament from that position, assuming he would have won that last match.
Yeah.
Now it's up in the air. I mean, he's still a very capable player. Mike's obviously a very good player, last year's runner-up. But Chris has beaten guys like Donnie Mills, and he's beaten an Archer. He's at the point where he can, reach up and beat a top player. He usually rises up to the level of his competition.
Nice.
So his big X factor is keeping his head together and being mindful of the details. But he's very composed and very relaxed and very offensive. So that match is probably going to be a very offensive match between the two, between Mike and Chris.
Bobby Stovall here on table 3, up 2-0 in this race to 7, has the break.
Okay. Oh, got a kiss. The cue ball floating to the corner, but I think he's 1, 2, 3. So made two balls
down.
Yeah. So Bobby looks very solid here. Got a makeable shot on one on the side, and then the 3's hanging in the corner. So he's really just got to focus on making the 1. No problem. So Bobby's just got to make this 1 on the side, and he'll float up and likely have a shot in the 3. And then the 4 is available. And I think we got Jeremy coming back in the booth.
Yeah, Raymond, how you doing?
Doing good. Bobby is up 2-0 against David and hasn't really put a foot out of line yet. He's been real mindful of his cue ball and seems to be controlling the game nicely. So he's up 2-0 and running out against a former champion, David Rowell.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me. I didn't see who chose the format here, but we've seen a lot of 8-ball start, and I think a lot of the guys that me and Jason had talked about it, that a lot of them feel like they're going to get a few more opportunities for sure, starting with the 8-ball.
Yeah, I think David won the lag and Bobby chose 9-ball, which is interesting. Which, like you said, I think most players will defensively pick 8-ball because they don't expect the guy to put a package on and playing 8-ball. They figure to get in and maybe have a couple chances to fight for control of the match. But Bobby picked 9-ball and David Rowell broke dry, and I think Bobby ran out and then broke and ran, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, from what I saw there, just kind of partially. Now, is he going downward with the ball here? Or is he going top right?
Top right.
Okay.
Just below his side, and
kind of punched it a little bit.
Yeah, it didn't get pure through the ball, and it didn't get the bite he wanted. So now he's just gotta
make a tough shot.
And being close to the pocket, on the Brunswicks, you have the metal framing to deal with and the rubber lip to sit above the felt. It's not like on a diamond where it's all uniform and leather and you can cue relatively uninterrupted. So it can cause some weird stuff. So sometimes you'll see players just bridge above the rail with an open bridge to avoid any weirdness.
Obstruction, yeah.
Yeah.
These are a little better. These are 4s, so they're a little more flush built, but not quite like the diamond for sure. This is all about making the ball. He could fall on the low rail below the 6, but unlikely.
And it's almost worth it to hit it a little firm, and just if you are going to get past the 9, come down and come back up if you can avoid it. But he got a nice nudge, and it, still good on the 6. So.
Yeah, and it's up to him here. He can soft spin this and with outside and float up, or he can go back and forth. I kind of like the soft spin myself. I think the 6 is pretty much a hanger. I mean, you don't have to. He went in and went back and forth. So he's going to get a little thinner on the 7 and a stretch, but still shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, I think if you go back and forth, you got to commit to getting past the center line of the table, right? Just okay, I'm going to go ahead and go all out to get back and forth, but I'm going to go all the way to give myself the bigger margin of error.
Really looks solid so far, though.
Recovering really well, I think. And the couple times I've seen him have to come with a shot, he's made it, and the ball's gone into the pocket with authority, but the cue ball's been under control.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's just, framing it in and hoping nothing bad happens. It tells me he's comfortable and adjusted to the tables by now. And
probably learned a little bit from the loss in the last match. Maybe a few things happened early, and playing a tough player with Abe anyways. But
yeah.
Here we're back over, but One thing that you said that I liked a lot right there was, and I talked about it yesterday, I don't really think even at the top level, pool's not about playing perfect positions. It's not only that, it's very hard to do, continually get perfect. It's more about the little recoveries.
Right. And I think it takes when you commit to doing it, having that approach, it takes a little bit more pressure off of you.
Yeah.
Some people can have self-compounding, like mental, I didn't get perfect, and then you're really just fighting yourself during an out when you can just say, okay, I'm just gonna, leave myself a shot and come with it, and know that once I've done so and recovered, I'm back. So it's little mental distinctions, guys. Especially when you're transitioning between amateur to top amateur, regional pro, like that kind of level, you kind of go through that again, you know what I mean? Because you have the added pressure of wanting to prove yourself against the good players, or just want to play your game. And, sometimes you can be hard on yourself when you go up and you play like an Archer, or you play a somebody who you look up to, and you want to
play well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it's like that, like you said a second ago also, that when you try to play that perfect pool, it actually makes you make really kind of silly decisions at times. Like it makes you really turn a shot that you're not supposed to work so hard on, and getting at that word work. That's the mentality I like to see a lot of times, is when you fall a little out of line, recover to the best place you can, or what the shot tells you, instead of trying to make some fantastic recovery and do everything in one shot.
Right.
Know you're going to have to work a little harder the next 3 or 4 balls because you got out of line on that, the second one in the run or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I love that working mentality when I see somebody working at the table,
Yeah, John DeToro was like the guy who I was around when I was younger and learned a lot from. And I think one of the things that I really admired about him was his ability to really grind and use good decision-making to win matches against more talented players.
Right.
Especially since when I knew him in his game, he was way past his prime. He's in his 60s, but Mike Davis used to say that he had the best shot selection of anybody outside of maybe Alex, who he's seen competing regularly. He just played really smart decisions and made life as easy as possible for himself.
Right, use the head a little bit. I just saw John for the first time in a long time down at the senior one pocket.
I saw a photo of that. Yeah, he was. I saw a photo of the senior one in Texas, right? It was.
Yeah, it was in Houston.
Yeah, I call him Grandpa. I love him.
Well, he's probably started playing a little more one pocket. John was more of a 9-ball player, definitely in his prime, and a really good 9-ball player at that. And just didn't play a whole lot of one pocket when I was around him before. And I'm sure now he plays a bit more of it.
Yeah, he's got a little partner's one pocket game. He plays weekly, and $10 one pocket and stuff. And also played a lot of golf at the old Hollywood Billiards. They had a 12-foot golf table, and John's great. He's a super colorful guy to be around, knows so much, and has been around the game forever, and just a sweet guy as well. And one of those guys that's always played well and maintained a job, which is tough to do as well. So John's great.
Okay, a funny kick shot here. I mean, it looks like the top English one rail goes right at it, but it might go in between the 6 and the 2 to me.
Yeah. If he misses it, he's going to miss to that side, but he hit it pretty good.
Yeah, he added speed to create a little more bounce off the rail. And
shifted the line.
Yeah. Now, David's going to get a good opportunity here to get back on track and maybe get on the board. He's got some issues, though.
Yeah, I wonder if he'll play shape on the 395.
Maybe, yeah.
Because the 495 could be another way, but if it might be easier for him to get shape off the 2 to the 3 to play that combo than having to get shape on the 3 and then get shape on the 4 to play it.
That's the other thing I was looking at. What he just looked at is top inside on the 2, get for the 3 in the side where you may draw into the 9-5.
Yeah.
Now, that's a touchy shot. Things could go a little wrong, meaning you could get jacked up over the 9, having to shoot a tough 4 ball. But
yeah, if he does that, then that tells me that the combo's not laying good. But
I think the combo's all right.
I think so, too. And I think I haven't been on the tables, but I'm assuming that they're still sliding just a hair. So
they're fairly broke in, and not in a bad way.
Right.
Just where you can
that
grip the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the beginning of the tournaments, when it's real slidey, it's kind of a difficult adjustment in and of itself as well. You got to adapt to playing because you're not used to really playing.
That's what gets more people than the older felt, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Especially when they're in stroke.
Yeah.
Meaning, when they're in stroke, they do whatever on the old felt. They check the cue ball however they want. But a lot of people aren't used to that slicker, newer condition, especially when the nerves get high.
Exactly, because it's you have to dial everything back so far, and if you're nervous, you'll get tentative, and balls will release on you. You have deflection errors. You get a lot of that stuff.
And it's a hard thing to explain, even with the top players. We talk about it all the time, of course, with the Moscone Cup, and they play a lot of TV matches, those top players do, to where the conditions are really, really slick. And,
right.
You can practice for it, you can talk about it, but until you get that time at the table, it's really hard to mimic trying to prepare somebody for that.
And in those conditions, I think back to what you were saying, it's almost like imperative that you play for that more general area position, not try and be too perfect, because the ball pocketing may be a little bit easier, but the cue ball is so much harder to control.
Yeah, you play a little bit more short side position at times. You really go with what the cue ball's telling you it's wanting to do, meaning like natural position. Even if it goes to the short side, it's just a much easier way to play. And we'll see a lot of that in a couple weeks' time at the Moscone Cup with the lights and the brand new felt, brand new balls. And
well, that'll be exciting, and I'll probably keep my daughter awake now, screaming at the TV. I'm pretty animated when it comes to the Moscone.
Well, she's got to get used to it, So.
In fact, she's been sleeping. We have a little swing, and I have a table at home. I have a Gold Crown 1, and I've been hitting balls. As soon as she came home, I started hitting balls, around her while she was asleep, so she'd get acclimated, because we want her to adapt to the way we want to live life, and not everybody be so quiet, type of thing. But
the golf clap and all that.
Yeah. But I mean, it's funny, they hear things when they're in the womb. Like, she was responsive to my voice from day one, and I know I practiced a bunch at home when my wife would sit and kind of hang out. So I have a feeling she's heard pool balls and stuff from inside the womb and stuff. It's kind of cool. But David played a good safe there, containing shot, and looks like we're going to see Bobby kick for the.
Yeah, cut off the kick too. Cut off the natural kick, anyways.
Yeah, it would have been extra nice if he would have gotten between the rail
and the 7.
And the 7. I think sometimes players don't want to go into the ball, but when you play 3 cushion, the ball helps stop the cue ball, right? So you want to play into it, and sometimes the pool players' tendency is to want to not bump into the ball because they're afraid of selling out. But when you see guys like Efren, the difference between a good safety player and somebody like him is that he'll a lot of times come 2 rails and bump into the ball with the same margin of error as somebody just going 1 rail trying to get behind the ball, but the difference is Efren is wedging you, or bumping the ball and getting a little separation, but cutting off those extra easy lines that make it more manageable to get out of.
Yeah, and also what happens with that is just like shooting a ball in, you get to put a little more stroke on it, so a little more aggressive with the stroke usually creates a little bit better results.
And cleaner, yeah. I see a lot of times some guys will come up a hair short and just leave the paint on the ball, and then they get into an elongated safety exchange as opposed to going to the other side where they'll come in and go ahead and tap the ball, and just really a lot of times they'll get more rewarded when they get comfortable with that. It's a touch thing, you gotta recognize when it's okay to bump the ball. So like there, when it's close to the rail, you actually you got a couple things that slow the cue ball down, and that's the object balls and then the rails. So and it's actually a big target, right? That's a big target there. You have 3/4 of that ball. You have a half ball on either side.
And the 6 gets a little further up the table.
Yep, and puts it in a smaller ball position. And
wow, what a shot!
I mean that
makes a difference.
That's a fantastic shot, right? I mean, but Bobby came with a beautiful shot, but David left him the opportunity for that. And those are the little things that affect. I mean, that could have been 3-1 Dave breaking in 9-ball. He's staring down the barrel at a 4-0 deficit. And that can be really heartbreaking. And it takes somebody with a lot of mental composure and experience to say, okay, breathe, that happened, I'm just going to wait for my next chance. But Dave is really, impressive, coming with some good shots. And I think Jason had mentioned that Bobby had taken like a 12-year break or 15-year break, to raise his family and all that stuff, and he just recently picked the game back up.
Yeah. Well, I remember him from years ago, actually, and met him years ago. And
that's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, him and his wife had come in a day or two early, and his wife plays as well.
Well, she apparently got 9th in the women's event, which this year.
Yeah. I watched her play a little bit. Yeah, she played well. Real steady, kind of probably similar to Bob.
I wonder who
I think Georgia. Are they from Georgia? Is that right? Yeah, Cummings, Georgia.
Yeah. I wonder who beats who at home. I wonder if they play for the dishes, Play a race to 7, who takes out the trash. Bobby probably still takes out the trash.
Yeah.
Even if he beats her. Anyways, Bobby looking really good. Composing himself, not taking anything for granted. Wants to really capitalize on that, stealing this game from Dave. And that's a strong shot, 4-0. Looks like Chris is running away with it here against Mike. Yeah, so we're in the 9-ball now, and Chris won all 5 games in the 8-ball. Chris is actually a pretty good bar table player as well. But I was telling Jason earlier that, from the position that he was in on his last match, I was watching from home. He was up 4-2, winner's side Final Four. I thought that if he won that match, he would probably be the favorite to win the tournament, even though Abe is the returning champion and has some momentum there. I played a lot with Chris in the area. He's from South Florida, and I've seen him beat some quality players. And he's kind of one of those guys that if his head is right, he doesn't really get scared of anybody. He's snatched matches from Archer and Donnie and, in regional tournaments and stuff. He's one of those guys that can reach up and beat a good player, and especially if he's playing a lot. So
Right, coming off a win would have been big.
It takes a lot of pressure when you get to that winner side finals. You got 2 barrels to get to the final, and you figure to maybe put a good set down.
All right, well, a long shot on the 1 that definitely has some reward here with the 2 over the side, so you expect Bobby to go at this.
And a favorable angle too, right? Where if he has a little margin of error with the 1, if he hits it a smooth speed, the rail helps him a little bit in case he does float it in nice and easy, use a pocket speed. So
yeah, it's the kind of shot I like. I like to stick a little more towards the medium. I just feel like I'm going to hit the ball a little better than that float a little bit. Now he doesn't have much cut, so that float doesn't bother me so much. When I'm cutting it a hair, I hate that.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how the contact's going to be between cue ball and object ball, so I want to put a little more steam on it. Not hard by any means.
It's kind of like that medium soft stroke, but still with authority.
Yeah, he hit it great.
He came all the way down.
Yeah, he hit it more than I thought, but still a great shot.
That's a pro shot there. Yeah, I mean, Bobby's really coming with all the shots here. And he's got, really an open table if he can get back to the middle and play the 3 in the side.
Yeah, he's just got to look what he's looking at now. That's the right thing. Just use the thick hit to come off a little between the 5-7 and know that you're going to float pretty easily 2 rails towards the center. And, there's not really – you don't want to get thin on the 3. But it's not like you have to get
straight
perfect on the 3. Yeah, there's a lot of open room. The 5 goes to both upper pockets. Now that might end up on top of the 5.
I think he's okay, but just barely. I think he had enough of the pocket there where he could have gone either on the thin side to the right of the 7, or instead of coming, I think he had just too much draw. He could have hit
he just caught it a little too much. Yeah,
I think a center ball stun would have taken him on the line you were talking about and taken him, 2 rails out to the
the
middle.
Even more than the draw there when the 2's hanging. I use more of the hit on the 2 to guide my ball a little bit more.
And it's probably safer that way too.
You don't flinch. You just.
That's something I've seen a lot of, like. It's a subtle thing, but a lot of the European guys who have a snooker background use that stun ball, kind of like managing the line with the center stun really well.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you watch Jason or even Darren or those guys, like they use that center ball stun and manipulate the cut angle to shift the line really well.
And that comes from that English 8-ball lot. They use, how, like the 9-ball, for instance, where it's at right now. You get above it and you come out 2 rails. You always shoot it and, when you get above the 9, like say the cue ball's over a little bit and you're cutting the 9 to this lower left-hand corner, and you come out 2 rails, that real natural way to shoot it.
Sure.
They do that a lot in the English 8-ball, those types of hits, and, of course, snooker.
Well, because of the rails and how the pockets are cut, They play a lot of that 45-degree angle into the pocket type of more direct
and you do a lot of the same things that way. So, that's the thing. Like when I teach pool, I try to teach to where people can realize that, it's sometimes it'll be obvious that you have to hit a ball light, and sometimes it'll be obvious you have to add steam. But most of the time when you're really playing well, you stay around that medium speed. Now, this is if you're playing decent position, not great, but decent, and you just grip the ball differently, meaning you add a little spin to speed it up or slow it down, but we keep our swing speeds close to the same. That way we're doing the same things a lot.
Shane is like that probably more than anybody. He just like that same fluid, consistent, delivery of the cue. Skylar does that a lot too, but his is, I think, a little bit more snappy. But players will find what works for them, and they just repeat that same stroke speed over and over again.
Right.
And that's how you develop consistency.
And then just grip the ball differently accordingly. So.
Yeah.
That's a nice stroke there. Slowly bringing it back. Now he may fall straight in on the rail.
This is good.
He's okay. He may have to punch this a hair,
right.
Just punch to the bottom rail and come up. And the good thing about this is, again, don't try to get the most out of this 7-ball you can. You got to recognize that the 8 and 9 are very handy.
Mm-hmm.
The 9's not on this opposite side rail to where you have to gain something special on the 8,
Yep. Yeah, it's sometimes like if you're, let's say, flat on this ball and, straight in, some players will try and yank it to the rail and then come back out.
Mm-hmm.
And when the heat's really on, do you need to do that extra work?
Sure.
Maybe just stop the ball and take a little bit longer shot, but you have a smooth angle on the 8 where you can just float it in and rely on your talent a little bit, just pocket the ball, go through your pre-shot routine and minimize the errors, I think.
I'll tell you what, Bob's very comfortable.
Yeah, he's looking really
He's
really
not
nice.
He's not backing off, pulling the trigger however he wants to do it.
A little unexpected, to be honest, because of how decorated David is, and obviously very consistent in this.
He hadn't shot much.
Hasn't shot at all. Yeah. So.
And
Right. So maybe he's. You know what happens sometimes when you get beat bad, you're on tilt. It doesn't matter who you play, you're going to give them the horns.
Right.
Just torch somebody. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think we were just talking about how sometimes when a player gets beaten one round, that they'll come back the next round and play all out because they're a little steaming, and it doesn't matter who they play, they're going to try and play a high level. So, see, that's the kind of thing again. There, he really fired that 9-ball in, and he just he's not babying it at all. He looks comfortable and
that could have been a case also against Abe. He may have had an opportunity or two, and he kind of was tentative, and he, had a talk with himself, saying, I might lose, but I'm not going down tentative.
Sure.
I've done it.
Yeah, I mean, we all have really. It's the nature of tournament play. You got to fight yourself a little bit. A nice safety here from Chris, and here he did kind of what we were talking about before. Played a nice 2-rail safety and almost wedged them on the 8. I think Mike might be able to swerve around the ball and maybe play a rail first. Unfortunately, it's kind of a shot to nothing because even if he, makes contact, he's likely going to leave a shot. And even if he makes it, he's still got to come with something on the 7. So Chris is really controlling the match. And,
ironically, was it 5-0 in both matches? So
look at that! Yeah,
very one-sided.
So he came across the 1 there, didn't hit the correct side, and as a result broke dry. And now we're going to see Dave with I guess a makeable combination.
Is the one coming up though? Because the cue ball's going away a little bit.
I think the cue ball's coming up, and the 1 is staying if he goes for the combo. So
maybe a safety instead. He wants to shoot though.
Yeah,
that.
He's very defensive as well, so he might just tuck him under.
Or maybe he can pinch this back and get a cut shot on the 1.
Yeah, maybe it's hard to. No, it looks like he's going to go to the short cushion,
and that's some discipline down 5-0, recognizing that a lot of times when you're in that position, you want to shoot.
Now David's not afraid to kind of get in the trenches and do that kind of work. He's very disciplined. So yeah, that's where he's best, I think. Now in looking at this shot, I kind of like kicking to this cushion here and trying to get on a half ball hit
on the bottom side.
On the bottom side, so you can bank the 1 up and give yourself a chance to get behind the pink 4. I guess that's the pink 4. That might be another ball there because I think that's the purple 4. But
yeah, it's the 4 and 5 there next to the cue ball.
There you go. So, it's fine. And Aramith is good with me, But yeah, so I that's kind of where I would go and play nice medium speed and try and maybe not just focus on the correct side of the 1.
Yeah. And the one thing about the speed on this shot, your shot you're talking about, is don't baby it too much. So that way if you hit the top side or you hit a little thin, you got some other things that can happen. Because your shot, you can still hit it. Yeah, you can still hit it nice as long as you catch it,
He's got to get a rail.
Yeah, it's not going to work. So probably the first blemish in the match for for Bobby.
I think he had a little right hand English on that ball, and I shortened it up a little. Plus with the speed, came underneath it and missed the ball.
3 to the 4, not so easy though. So he's got to gain some nice shape. Probably shooting the 2 on the side with top inside, coming 1 rail across in between the 6-3 to gain an angle on the 3 to get back for the 4.
And you want to favor going towards that line, past that line between the 6 and the 3.
You can handle straight in on the 3 as well, so at least to there, because you can always draw back. But you don't want to be short.
Yeah. Now Dave got a little flat on the 2
ball. Yeah, now he's a hair
he's
short.
Hard,
yeah. So he's got a draw stroke here. Maybe past in between the 6 and the side pocket, something like that. I don't think he can get on the good side of the 6. I think he's got to come to the far side of it.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see what he does. Oh, look at this shot.
He put some extra spin on that, and he's going to be all right.
He's going to get a roll.
Yeah.
He's going to get a roll. Can he see? It's hard to tell. He doesn't seem too upset. Yeah, looks like he got good on the 4. And the table's open for him now. That was a nice recovery shot, really juicing the cue ball to get back up table. And I kind of like that he attacked the line there of the 4 and 5 and went at him, knowing that I might get a little fortunate, but if I go at the 5, it gives me my best chance to try and get a shot. And he's got to try and do something and open it up and get a rack on the board. But this is kind of the equity of playing the game that you like first. This is what I did when I played the tournament in 2010, and when I won it, I always played 9-ball first if I could. I was not as good at 8-ball back then either. I played okay, but definitely felt like I was a better player in 9-ball, so I wanted to try and give myself a shot to get the advantage early and put the pressure on them.
Right.
And I just told myself, no matter what, I'm going to play 9-ball first if I can. And it worked out for me. But most guys don't do that, that I've seen. I've kind of learned that I'd probably now, in hindsight, just pick the break. I'm a little more, just because,
Well,
so
when you're a quality player, I think that's a good choice. I mean, you got to most likely play them both anyways.
Yeah.
We haven't seen too many that have gone without both formats involved, both disciplines.
All right, looks like David's on the board.
Yes, he is.
What year was it that David won? Do we know? It's on the trophy. Yeah. Looks like David won the singles nationals 8-ball in 2009, and he's won several Alabama State 9-ball championships. And in 2012, 2014, 18, 19. And he's won the 8-ball state championship in 18.
Well, Chris Gentile coming back with a quick 7-0 win there.
There's a shutout, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was a little on tilt maybe from losing his last match and putting it on. Kind of what Bobby was doing now, right, in this match. So does the winner of Mike and Chris play the winner of Dave and Bobby? Is that what's going on? And then that gets us to our hot seat match? I'd imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, we should play our 3rd and 4th place match at the same time as the hot seat at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, I think these two, the winners of these two matches,
yeah, they play each other for 3rd, 4th. This is
Right.
the 5th, 6th position. Whoever loses will be in 5th, 6th.
Right. And everybody's guaranteed some hardware at this point,
Yeah.
right? They get the nice plaques and trophies. Good shooting. No. I have a brake rack at home if you want to borrow it. I have the brake rack at home. I'll just charge you, 10 an hour. It's Chris Gentile just walking behind us.
I do find that pretty interesting. I unmuted myself to say this. I find it interesting. He just 7-0'd.
Mm-hmm.
Then came back and said he didn't know how to break.
Yeah, well, you'll get to know his personality pretty soon, I'm sure.
Seems like he did pretty okay.
Yeah.
Oh, he's looking to improve is all.
And I respect that. I respect that. But find some joy in the win,
He knows his limitations. And Dave's got a thin cut shot here, but if he
funny.
can come back and forth, maybe avoid the 6, he can get shape on the short
good
side of the
stroke
2.
there, too. Oh,
Yeah.
the one hung. I thought the one went. When I first saw it come off the cue ball, I thought it was okay.
Yeah. I think he managed the line well, and he just hit it a hair.
hair
like
thick.
just like what you said, the tables are a little bit
Yeah,
broken
breaking
in.
in, yeah.
So maybe earlier in the tournament that ball would have slid in, but it's gripping a little more. So you got to hit a hair cleaner.
And Bob's got a decision here. I like him just going one rail by the 6,
I do too.
kind of laying up on that far
I do too.
side cushion.
Yeah.
I think that's what.
I think you can get in less trouble going that way, even if you know. I don't think it's too hard to avoid the 6, but just a hair left English and quarter ball hit. And the one ball's not too deep that it's going to cause them any issues. You know, it looks like he's hitting it inside. I think this is actually harder.
I think he's just going where we were talking about, just floating it by there, and
center.
that's the correct speed.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you race it, you know, coming out of that pocket, a lot of the funny things happen. The ball kind of hydraulics a little bit, it hooks a little, and then you lose your line. It kind of stalls the cue ball a little bit more.
Right, and he was just far enough out from the deep part of the pocket that it. You know, he was going to get enough reaction and hopefully not bite too hard if he didn't hit it. Only thing you can do wrong there, hit it too thick and then get that hook, you know.
Yeah, or overhit it a little bit as well. That overhit, it just goes, it's a funny shot. It just goes right into that rail so quick. It's almost like a kick and stick. It kind of reverses on you.
Right. Well, because the cue ball still has
rotation,
that top English, Just hit the field goal here.
That's his first one.
He pooched it a little bit.
Yeah.
He hit his line good, but he just missed the contact on the 2. And I think Dave might have a window.
I think so. Well, he's going back like maybe he has to go to the jump cue. No, he's just gone to get his chalk is all. Okay.
I think Jason had mentioned that David does some custom cue work now as well. He builds his own cues.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty interesting. I kind of like that. I like one of the things I admire a lot is like guys like Oscar who do like their own tables and stuff, and they have an outside skill set that's important to the game. You know, having a good table mechanic is like it's everything for a good player. So be able to be self-sufficient, be able to do it yourself. You know, it's kind of like working on your own car when you're little. You know, you go in the garage and tune it up. You know, that might be something I might want to learn in the future. Is learning because there's an art form like anything. You know, a lot of
good table mechanics are needed too.
Yeah.
Something like where I live in the Dallas area, it's
tough.
Well, you know.
Do you guys have carom tables there at all, or no?
Oh, yeah. I mean, not really in the pool rooms that most go to. But, yeah, we have some. We actually have a couple really nice new ones that have just opened at really super, super tables, super nice places, and nice people.
One of my favorite pool rooms is in New York and Queens, Carom Cafe. And they have a beautiful 3-cushion arena, and it's a Korean-run pool room. And in Korea, the 3-cushion is like
huge.
It's like boxing in the Philippines, or pool in the it's like national sport. So they really there's a guy 24/7 vacuuming the tables. Second you get off from practicing, he's polishing the balls, and they really do it up well. And their table mechanic is, amazing. His people will fly him around the country and around to do their tables because he's so good, Mr. Oak. He does a lot of the tables for Ira Lee over at Carom. Really amazing stuff. So it looks like David's going to get another one on the board here.
Yeah, and we're going to get to our last game of the 9-ball here after this. 9 balls down.
Yeah, Bobby's got to be careful not to give up too many cheap innings. It's one thing if David just kind of like breaks and runs a couple, but when you have such momentum and then you maybe miss a couple easy balls, it can build your opponent's confidence and it can diminish your own, and then you start, things can swing. So you got to be mindful of that.
And there you go. The 2020 entry window is now open.
Sweet.
For if you want to look into qualifying for next year's U.S. Amateur, be right back here at Strokers in Palm Harbor.
And the winner gets an entry fee into the U.S. Open, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think it's your choice. Most want the U.S. Open, but I think that there's a few tournaments that.
Yeah.
But they get their entry fee and travel and everything else accommodated for. But
especially because for me, it would either be the U.S. Open or the International, because they're $1,000 entry fees and they're, they're significant.
Well, just the being able to play
it. Yeah, absolutely. I had a lot of fun. The one U.S. Open that I went to was a great experience. being around the players, and you just absorb so much, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, and most likely, you know, and any of these guys that go on to win, you know, not necessarily heroes, but I mean, you're not gonna draw somebody that, you know, wasn't experienced to play. That's for sure at the U.S. Open.
Right.
The quality of the field is just
Excellent. Yeah.
yeah, it's excellent, and it's you know, saying this in a nice way, but it's a lot more pro quality throughout.
Absolutely.
You know, whereas you know, it is a true open, so you can enter no matter what, but it's just filtered a little bit different now.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
a
you gotta
tough
be
shot
ready.
here. May
Yep.
not shoot at this.
I think he should go in the
I
corner.
mean, I think he's got to shoot at it really,
Yeah. Yeah.
hit it
Nice
great.
shot. Yeah. Clean stroke.
but yeah, I think David originally at the U.S. Open in Virginia some
Yeah.
16, 17 years ago maybe, and he was a regular there every year,
Right.
always in the mix at the pool room and at the venue.
So Jeremy, what's your schedule like after this? You gonna meet up
Watch
with
out,
the team?
7.
Oh, watch out!
Okay.
Got away with it.
Yeah, I gotta go home tomorrow. I actually fly out Wednesday to Arizona to teach for 4 days.
Awesome.
And then I go straight from there to Vegas. We're getting there about a week early.
Good.
Do some training and, you know, just a number of things to go over, and
Sure.
and then we start the 25th.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was. I remember just watching last year, really being amped up and seeing how well the guys played together and how well they handled some severe adversity, especially early on. And Tyler making that big win against Niels, and then, you know, Skyler having that day where he won 3 huge matches, and then that, of course, that amazing match he had with Albin where they both shot like a 940 or something. They both played near perfect.
Up there, yeah.
And then Sky made that beautiful jump shot and just came with it. And
A lot of people don't. They don't. Of course, I was in the stands, and I mentioned this just a few days ago that Jason, I think, but I was telling Johan in the stands that there's nobody I would have rather had jumping that ball. And then again, when Shane was shooting that combo,
yeah.
I was saying the exact same thing. There was nobody I'd rather have shooting that combo. But as far as Sky's jump shot, a lot of people don't remember the little tricky combination he made right after the jump shot when the ball laid on the side rail, which I thought was just as tough as the jump, believe it or not. I was pretty confident that Sky was going to make. Oh,
no.
And similar to
Bobby's shot.
yeah, Bobby's shot where he kind of shouldered it a little bit, the elbow broke down a little, and
I think quick too on the transition. Not
and that's
like,
what makes that happen a lot
Yeah,
of times,
just-
believe it or not.
You got to really steady yourself and kind of just say, I'm going to deliver the shot and let myself, you know, allow myself to execute like I've done 100,000 times before, you know. But, yeah, I mean, that whole tournament, and I think Albin played unbelievable the whole tournament long. He's just so composed.
Mm-hmm.
He's like the methodical version of Filler, right, where Filler is all aggressive and kind of just dominates. Albin really controls himself and takes his time and beats you down, you know, because he's so consistent, and it puts pressure on you. You're like, can't miss a ball, can't miss shape, you know. It's rough, you know, but just a quality match. And then, you know, Shane coming with the win was awesome with that combination. He's just so physically gifted and talented at the table, so coordinated, can do stuff like that. Like I remember the shot where he played a double bridge jump against Dennis Arcoyo in the U.S. Open, I think, to get on the hill and then broke and ran, you know, to win the tournament. And who does that? You know, he just puts out two bridges and jumps the ball in, one rail position, billiards the ball, gets shape and runs out.
Well, if you want to see something really special, I mean, there's a lot of them when it comes to Shane, but go back and look at last year's Dream Challenge when we played Team Russia. If you watched the last couple of matches, the way he played when we had to come back to win that, but just the runouts, I'm talking about the layouts of the table, you would just be like, are you kidding me? This is CGI or something they're doing to me here on the screen. But
it's like the only other person you think would get out from there would be like Andrew Cleary or something. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah. No, but Shane's, I mean, unbelievable. And I think, too, it was a person I can kind of imagine the personal victory for him with all the flack he's taken over the years about maybe not performing at his best overseas or maybe at the Moscone.
Yeah.
To have the shot to win the tournament is, I think the whole thing top to bottom was excellent, and I think that's indicative to good preparation and then good leadership from you and Johan and the team, kind of like just, taking what you guys have put in there for them and allowing themselves to just play their game,
Yeah, just be confident, and that's one thing that I really liked, and I commented on it many times about last year's victory is the guys, what they went through and what they had to try and achieve, but also that it wasn't bloody.
Right.
It was like really great play from both teams
Absolutely.
the entire time.
And that's what you want. Even if
Yeah.
you do lose, it sucks, but, you guys both went up there, played quality pool, and the best man won for the day, or the best team won,
Yeah, and winning is the same way,
Right.
I mean, everyone, no matter what, they would appreciate the victory. But as being a player, former player,
Mm-hmm.
and then, a part of the team as an assistant captain, it really stands out in my head that we overcame
Huge
them
adversity.
playing well,
And in Europe, which is there's something to be said about their
I
fans.
thought that was an advantage to us myself.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that would relieve some pressure. Of course, you got all the crazy fans, but
Right.
I mean, I think our guys like it. I
Yeah.
think our guys, it's a group of guys that they're entertaining kind of guys anyways.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
they're
that's
going to
good.
look at a lot of those lines like, man, I wish I would have thought of that.
Yeah,
kind of like,
yeah.
I wish I'd have come up
Right.
with that one,
Well,
so appreciate that.
I've
kind
heard
of stuff.
Efren say that he doesn't like playing at home. He doesn't like because there's so much pressure. He's like the guy who feeds a lot of people there and and he's so admired that he didn't like playing in the Philippines. He'd rather play in Cardiff in the Lions Den, you know what I mean, with like all the deal with that than have to deal with playing at home. So yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, he needs a proper angle here, or no angle actually, to get on the 8 in a good
Yeah.
way. Now he's going to have to travel to the
beneath it.
back side of it, which is okay. The main thing here is stay off the rail with the cue ball.
And a note too about Bobby's last jump shot there. He didn't hit it pure, and I think the ball spun out on him a little bit. In stark contrast to the one he just popped in the side, hit it pure. Maybe a sign that he's maybe the errors are starting to compound. Maybe might be feeling a little pressure.
Maybe.
And that smoothness that he had early on, it might be
Well, in his defense, Bobby certainly wasn't raised playing with the jump cue
Right.
at my age as well. We had one. We had some. I think it was Rick Howard. This is what I would have been worried about right there.
getting stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been my emphasis even more than the angle, is not be on the rail with the cue ball.
Right.
But yeah, when not saying you can't practice it, but the kids these days that start out with get a jump cue almost
It's a head start.
Yeah,
It's-
exactly.
It's like a break shot for them. We all know
Yeah.
how important the break is. People train for hours on end. I know if I haven't been playing, I might take a day and hit 100 jump shots and really make sure I got the touch because it's really touch and a lot of feel, especially when you get into the short little ones. But then the long distance ones, you gotta treat it like any other stroke and really work it. That's why the Taiwanese are so good. They approach all aspects of the game that way. They're almost militaristic, right?
Yeah, they're pretty incredible.
Yeah. So looks like David missed a tough. It's such a tough shot, like you said. Being on the rails really increases the difficulty.
Yeah.
And he just hit into the point. So
I
Bobby,
like the way he shot it, though. He shot it with a confident speed. Just caught the upper point, and now the same thing here. Nice, confident, long stroke. These shots are, although not hangers, not that hard as long as you stay full with the swing. When you get a little pokey is whenever
Right.
these kind of bobble on you.
Right. I kind of think about just being real smooth on my cueing and just deliver the ball through, staying down to make sure I'm not jabbing or jumping up or falling apart on my mechanics.
Well, something that he's not totally comfortable with just yet. And I don't think it's shot selection. I think you're just cutting this in all day is what you're trying to do and go back and forth with the cue ball.
Right. Nice shot.
He hit it great.
Clean.
Now he's
Clean.
He's going to have to make one off the rail here. Okay, a little bounce, so that makes all the difference in the world.
Sure. See, he left his chalk there. I would have brought it over this way.
The little things, huh, Raymond?
Some people don't care. I kind of like managing that stuff, getting out
Well,
of the sight.
I don't care about the eyesight part. It's just a routine thing for me. It's
Yeah.
part of my routine, So
Yeah.
just it's
'Cause
do little things to slow yourself down,
Yeah.
to
And
stay in that routine.
I tend to have it. I cue and shoot right-handed, so I chalk right-handed, so I put it to my right, and then I finish my stroke and put it down to my right. It's kind of like you're repeating that all over again.
Sure.
Bobby's on the hill here, 6-2. And I think we're switching now to 8-ball.
Yes, we are. That was 8 racks of 9-ball.
Mm-hmm.
Well, David's up against it here, but he's got to first get that opportunity at the table. But
Right.
You'd think, believe it or not, that I kind of think it's easier if you need 5 in a row to win 8-ball more than it is 5. I know you can break and run
Sure.
playing 9-ball, but I'm talking about circumstance, meaning.
Right.
The break, you could break and make 2 or 3 and get really trapped up playing 9-ball, and you can
Things
run.
can go weird in 9-ball
and you
too.
can run out,
Yeah.
get a little bit of a funny roll or a little
Yeah.
kiss, and now
Yeah.
you're faced with a super tough shot where your opponent needs 1.
Kind of in
You know?
8-ball, you can mitigate those things a little bit more. Have you seen many packages at all in 8-ball throughout
A
the
couple
tournament?
racks here and
Couple
there,
break and runs here and there.
I wouldn't say anything more than 2.
Right, and the 8 does count on the break, I believe.
Yeah, we've seen that once. Okay, he's
There you
made
go,
a solid.
Got a
And
kiss. Coming
besides
underneath
the
4.
2-ball, they're very runnable. I think the 7's a little tough, but if he can use the 4,
Mm-hmm.
if he didn't have to use the 4 right now, if he could use the 4 to drop on the 2
Right.
for the upper, that opens up the 7.
Well, I think to do that, he's got a pretty straight-in shot on the 5. Maybe a hair the wrong angle, but I think
I think I might.
if you take solids, I think he has to take solids.
Well, yeah, you got to
just
the
make it
rules.
take it, yeah. So-
I think the 1.
Yeah, the one.
Maybe the 1. If the 1-3's playable, I don't know, but the 1's got a pretty big pocket at that angle.
Yeah.
You slide over, you play off the 3.
Because he could play, I think the 5 passes in this corner too, so he could play 1-3-5 and be perfect on the 4.
On the 4, yeah. And I think that the 4 is the key ball to get on the 2 for sure. You got a
Absolutely.
big area to roam the cue ball between the 11, 13 for the 2 all the way up, and that takes you to the 7. So
And
he's
then-
going to have to make one tough shot here.
And then the 8 goes in the side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I think is important in 8-ball. I tend to, barring any weird obstruction balls that you gotta get at right away to open up, I like to approach the middle of the table first and try and get into my end pattern, working backwards. Trying the 5-1-3 is kind of like the area that we're addressing first, because then we can have a connecting ball to get to the rail and finish our rack, right? To get to that kind of like that straight pull mentality. You have a key ball, you got to get to this side of the ball to open up the problem ball.
Well, he didn't want to miss, so I think that's
Right.
why this 4 ball is maybe going to get taken away. And
That's interesting. I kind of don't
Yeah.
like.
yeah, I mean
like
that's
that.
really the key ball to get on those other 2. And
Yeah.
normally you want to get to problems early, but when the
Mhm.
rack is right there and it shows you that,
This
hey, I
is
can
right.
handle waiting on that 2 ball.
Sure,
So,
sure.
and he's going to have to wait here, even if he does make the 4.
And that's more of a challenging shot too. He's got to kill the ball, kind of
Mhm.
back cutting it a little bit. It's more complex, and now he's not really on the right side of those. These 2 balls here. So now he's got to, work a little
I'm
harder.
curious how he's going to get to the 2. Really, to be honest with you, I just don't. I mean, they're with the 1-3 over the side. You'd like to think I could take the 1 away at some time and play off
Yeah.
the 3 to maybe get in that gap over there.
Yeah.
But still, it's not easy.
I think now he's got to play the 5, maybe stun above it, and then play the 1 and try and get an angle to come down, and hit that window. But now,
I wonder if he wants to draw over, pinch draw over for a cut on the 7, and then maybe try and hold for that. Man, I mean that's tough, but
Yeah.
he's close to the 5. That's what he's looking at right now.
Yeah. Yeah, then he's got to come between the side and the 2, right?
I think so. He's got to really pinch it well.
Right, because you could easily overcut it a hair and then
Yeah.
go into drink, right?
Yeah, and not only that, you don't want to get thin on the 7. I mean, if you get a little thin on the 7, it becomes very difficult to hold for that 2 ball.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because the 2's there. You almost have to be where the 2 is to not
To be
thin,
perfect,
right?
yeah, to be perfect, right. Yeah, you're going to have to take a little bit of a shot on the
Yeah.
2. It's not going to be an easy shot on the 2, even if you get where you want here.
Which is kind of why I think I like he's forced to do this now, so I kind of like trying to shoot the 5 in the top left and try and get on the 1 so that you can hopefully control your angle to come down off the 3. But now I think he's going to try and play the combo 1-3.
Okay, now if he can hold that angle, he may be able to play off the 1 to get there, and it's perfect actually.
If the 1 should pass, sometimes they'll freeze up, and it's depending on where on the 14, it might be weird. You might not be able to get there, but
it definitely goes, I think, and I think the angle is all right because it's so close. You can manipulate the hit on the 1 a little bit to create a little more natural angle going where you need. Like you don't necessarily have to draw. Maybe hit it thicker with just a lot of right spin.
Sure.
When you hit this bottom rail, you spin towards that 2 ball.
Yeah.
If you draw it, you really got to hit your line well.
Right.
Just needs to not.
And he decelerated a little bit.
Yeah, he
so
sure did.
He hit like draw, but then decelerated, so it's kind of like as if you were just hitting center, But now he's thin, right?
Yeah, just gotta float it in, right? I mean, what else you gonna do? You could draw 1 rail into the 7,
right? Which is
taking a chance, but I mean, maybe needs to happen. We'll see. And that deceleration, that really only comes from that quick backswing. It's about the only way you can decelerate. And when you smooth the backswing back, it's hard to want to go slower. You almost always want to accelerate. What happens with that quick backswing, you get it back there and your mind kind of takes over and said, oh, I'm going too fast.
Right. No, that's not going to go.
He may have gotten really fortunate here with hanging the 2 ball as well.
Right. But, yeah, I think that was based on where he was. If he wanted to get out, he had to go into the balls for sure. Yeah. Let's see if David can cue the
If he doesn't have much of a shot here, he's in trouble.
And he also has a little bit longer cue and elevating, stretched out, treetop over the 7.
That's the one I always use, treetops.
Obviously, he's a avid yoga practitioner. Might clip the 11. Nope, overcut it. Nice. That's a nice shot.
Yes, it is.
Now Davis should be able to manage this and get all the way out.
Yeah, he's got some work though.
Yeah, I think this stripe over here to the left center, it's kind of obstructing his way down, but it's a good key ball to get down to the 11.
Yeah, but the thing is, if he doesn't shoot the 10, he has to take on a missable ball, which that's just part of pool. I mean, if you need to shoot the 14, you need to shoot the 14. But
if he's full, I kind of almost just like maybe barely rolling forward a hair and shooting that next stripe, but he went into it. I don't like that. I'm not sure if he had an angle where he could have like maybe floated it or pinch drawed it a little bit and taken this stripe that he's behind now next.
Yeah.
As a way to connect to that 12 and then maybe the 14 and the 9 and the 11. It's tough because the two is pressure, right? It's,
yeah, for sure.
It's applying pressure to David because he's got to work around it. It's not like an open pocket.
Yeah, and not really that's, when your opponent runs balls playing 8-ball, a lot of times you have a pretty easy safety or you have a 2-way to where there's no jeopardy or no pressure behind the shot, but not when he's got that ball hanging up there.
Yeah. It's kind of like a positional ball in one pocket. It's taking up real estate, and it affects your shot selection.
Well, a little light there as well. So
yeah. So a little center ball left maybe.
Yeah, he's got to stay off the rail when it comes 2 rails. You don't want to fall straight on that ball up at the top. If you do that, you may not be able to gain the angle on the 9 to get to the 11. So very important. Even more so than the angle, in my opinion, stay off the rail with the cue ball.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think that the match kind of got out of hand again when he missed that one ball because he got frozen on the rail.
Watch out. Watch out.
That's not good.
Trouble. He may not even have the 11 either.
I don't think he does.
Oh, he does, but it's thin and it's
tough.
tough.
The 11, yeah. But
I knew he got cut off on the 9 and the 12.
Yeah.
Can he throw this backwards, I guess, maybe the 9?
It's one of those close where you just kind of blind cut away and hit it firm. And now he's got to manage his cue ball if he does that.
Well, if he does play that, that's the type of shot he's putting outside English. He should go ahead and try to get on the 11. I would. I don't want to throw this in and get real funny on the 12 where I cannot get to the 11. And I think this type of shot offers to come back down the left side of the table.
You're going to go deep. You're going to go
With
forward
left English,
a little bit,
yeah.
and the left will bring you back. You don't necessarily have to worry about draw. The spin will get you there.
Right. And that's how you want to shoot it to make it usually anyways when you're faced with this one, when you're real close to it.
But he's got to commit to. He's got to swing. He's got to go all out to do that. And make the ball.
And he likes this better than the 11.
Yeah. And sometimes you get on those balls where you got to really just knife them in, and you're going backwards, negative cut, and hit it 100 miles an hour. Oh, he hit it a good speed there.
Okay, and he gained a little bit of an angle. It's not totally natural to come back for the 11.
Right.
He can't quite top inside it. Can't quite just hit a high left, I don't think. Maybe he can get away with high left.
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think it's really, stay off the rail. It's kind of one of those shots where it's like, well, the rail's safe, but you don't want to be on the rail because then you got to manipulate.
You might go away from the 8.
Yeah, and then, or into the 7. And then
well, you just got to, if you get down there, I think he'll be happy with whatever if he gets down there. And that's what I would have worried about. A little light.
Just get past the side.
A little light.
Yeah.
But doable.
Right.
But he's almost got to float this. The 8 doesn't pass the 7, so he can't afford to really go around the table, I don't think. So he's got to float this one in and hopefully get the cue ball about where it's at now.
Right.
And this is where if I have to go a foot further to be a little
to guarantee the ball.
Well, not guarantee, but feel better about it.
Right.
Well, then I go a foot further and take a little longer shot on the 8 rather than trying to just coast this one in an uneasy kind of manner. Great
Floated
shot.
in nice.
Great
Look at
shot.
that. That's a quality shot. He rolls those balls real nice. It looks like he's got a nice touch, and that's not easy to do either. But just got to stay down. Mission accomplished there for Dave.
Yeah.
Just gotta,
scrappy out.
Yeah. Just got to give yourself the one at a time. He's part of a good batch of players in the Alabama area that usually play in this event. Bunch of guys. Couple former champions, couple guys that finish pretty deep every time. Looks like Dave's going to go for that second ball break again. Eight ball's got action.
Yeah, 11 down, so he's got a stripe. He's on the end rail and not really, at first glance, he doesn't have an ace. Well, he's got the 12. And probably he'll shoot it in a defensive manner if he misses it, trying to clog that pocket. I don't see him really going super aggressive here.
Does that 9 ball pass the 5?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And, it's a doable out. You got a lot of work, though.
Sure.
But still, nevertheless, he's, like I said, he'll probably just kind of roll the 12, and if he makes it, he makes it. He may not try and go any further, even if he does make it, just because, again, you don't want to run out. And
right. You don't want to not get out and expose yourself.
But it's a hard thing. You don't want to, play a so-so safety and 8 ball early in the game where you're not getting really a snooker or anything like that, or ball in hand, and then watch your opponent run out behind you after you decided not to try and run out.
Yeah, you don't want to lose on a phony safe, right? That's what Danny always says. Let's see.
Well, you hit it perfect.
Really accurate with those long rolling balls. I wonder if he decides to go offensive here, if he just floats this 13 in, he might have an angle to go one rail off the 14 into the 7. Is that something?
Maybe. Oh, you mean just real light? Yeah, that would be great, and go into the 7, having the 12 laying there maybe for a shot. But he's got to go into the 7 pretty decent to move that ball near the 7 into a playable position.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if there's any defensive options here. That looks like maybe the easiest, most natural way to go after it, but let's see if he has other ideas. Nice pocket speed.
Yeah.
Dripped it in.
Now, I wonder if there was a way to get back off that ball near the 3. What is that, the 12 ball there, I think?
Mm-hmm.
If he could fall on the 14, shoot to 14, fall on the 12 to where he could get back on the 9, of course, that ball near the 7 will go on the side once the 12's removed, but I just don't see that realistically happening.
Right. Yeah, he'd have to
get right like where the 4's at from here. And
right.
So,
That's
I mean,
tough,
it's tough, but it's possible. I mean, high left English, you might carry the cue ball right into that position, you know?
Yeah, you can twist it in and let the spin do the work and get you in that little window.
Yeah, and you know, you might go for that knowing that you might rub those balls a hair and change things a little bit, but if he gets out from here, though, I see a big momentum swing.
Yeah, and a definite pressure being put back on Bobby.
That's going to be upsetting.
Yeah,
kind of like that ball coming out of the pocket. He went at it a little hard and had it hook on him a little bit. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you got to roll it and let the spin.
Like smooth it a little.
Smooth it
yeah.
and let the spin take you back. And the speed was maybe a little hot, too.
Right. But I think he was trying to go into it, and he recognized he needed to move that stripe more than just an inch or two. I mean, most likely he needed to get it open maybe over near the 8 or close to there.
So I think either you chop the 9 in and hope, or bank it away and try and suck under the 5.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing. If you bank it away and get underneath that 5, good chance you might get stuck back underneath that 5 with just a little rub shot of some sort. But, I mean, what else are you going to do, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I like the cut going straight up and down the table and trying to come back over the spot, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know if the 8's in the way of that or not.
I think you can miss the 8.
Come back at him.
You probably go at like, in this area here between the 3, 15, 12, 7, somewhere in there.
I'd probably want to open my balls here if I was shooting this safe. I'd probably want to get them open. But see, he can just tickle the 5 and go right back on it, right here below it, kind of rub the point right there.
Yeah. It also kind of, you maybe give your opponent a chance to make an error. You know what I mean? This is not, it just depends on where it's sitting, but that's big, it's a big pocket, and you got to be mindful of that. But on it, I think maybe he could even just go off the 6 and go off the table, because that 5 ball's there blocking the pocket. That's a little bit of equity for him, right?
Yeah. There's. I mean, he's got a few options for sure. I mean, but I tell you, this little shot just feathering the
1
5.
pocket.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's a very easy shot.
It's kind of like, I hit you behind the ball, and the guy just goes, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that hurts so bad.
Right. Yeah, a lot of times playing 1 pocket, a guy puts you in a position, it's like you stay there because the position's no good for either,
Yeah, that's awesome. I bet you have a lot of guys coming up in your area that can kind of get a lot of value from your being there and being like the resident caliber 1 pocket, professional, right? They can learn from. We used to have Monster John down in South Florida, John Rouse.
Yeah, I know John real well. I knew him real well before he passed. A great player. And
he was tremendous.
Good guy.
Yeah, and super awesome. Just loved the game. And I remember one time he played a guy like 5 a game, 1 pocket even, but they played for he beat the guy at like 200 games or something crazy. They played like for 40 hours or something. John played pool. He just lived in the pool room. But you don't see a lot of guys that play that good. That'll, it's too cheap. You gotta, whatever. But it was him, and then maybe Rob Melrose both played really good.
Yeah, Rob. I haven't seen him in a while.
And Randy Epperson too were like the guys, But they were they were like in Hollywood area, a little bit 30 minutes north of me.
Yeah, I've actually known Rob. When I went on the road when I was like 19 or 20, I met him.
Yeah,
I don't know if he even remembers.
So
but
funny.
Yeah. But yeah, 1 pocket. I'm pretty lucky. Just Houston, where I'm from, and so many great 1 pocket cities, but that's one of them. And
you recently
learned from all those guys. Oh yeah,
last
2 years ago. Yeah.
Hall of Fame. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. Pretty lucky.
Yeah, it's awesome to have your peers recognize your effort and your career as something worth being noted in something like a Hall of Fame. It's special stuff. So that's amazing.
Yeah, and goes on to many more people that helped me.
Yeah, it's one of those things like I love the idea of paying it forward and shit. Because I remember being a young player and being just thirsty for knowledge. And if I played a good player, the first thing I'd ask him was like, "What do you think I need to improve on in my game?" And I would ask any good player that I played, after our match, win or lose, like, "What do you think I need to improve on?" And always approached it as a student and somebody who just wants to strive to get better. And whenever they would say something of, try and take it all, value and apply it and work on those things, and that's how you get better. And so I've had people reach out to me on Facebook, "Hey, I have a question with this or that," and I always try and take the time to send them as thorough a response as I can, because I remember being there and just being desperate for that one nugget that I could apply in my game the next month or two that was going to make me a half ball better.
Yeah. And most of those things are things that you apply a lot of times. It's little variations of what information you get, you use. So, and there, man, I think Bobby was just trying to get too much out of a shot. He was trying to really bury him when, like you said, the 5 had that lower left pocket covered up. Wasn't really much problem there. Just leave him some distance off the 6, and I think he was trying to get at him and get him behind the 1 somehow.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, he moved. He went off the 6, and then he billiards.
Yeah, he went off the 5. So.
Yeah, and that's kind of where maybe David was hoping for that, where his opponent would maybe make the error and just give him an opening that, sometimes you can't do or can't. You're not in a position to make the move that wins the match, but you can kind of give your opponent a little rope to hang himself with.
Yeah.
And if he picks the wrong thing and doesn't execute, then that'll, you can get out of some situations that way.
Yeah, that was very surprising, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that was probably where less was more, right? You just kind of go off the 6 and go up table or something to that effect, where you're. Let David come with the tough shot.
Well, there's no chance taking. Right. That's the main thing. Don't take any chance.
Right.
Now, is he not going to hit the 7 here? Is he? Okay.
That's a little bit more than I would have liked, but he's there. He's safe, and he's straight, so that's good.
Yeah, I think that was okay though. That's where it was taking him, and he recognized that. That's why he put a little more speed to keep the line and get a good full contact on the 6. So now just creeping back in here, and whoever loses this match will take 5th, 6th place in this tough field.
And it's roughly around 2,000 people that qualify every year around the country, and then it gets whittled down to 128. So we're looking at 128 of the people that qualified. But there's, thousands of other players around the country who, registered and tried to qualify. And, there's something to be said about that. And I really like that format where you kind of really get a sample size of all the players, from around the country who are trying to win the event. So. And it makes it meaningful too. You say, I got 5th out of, 1,800 qualifiers, or it's good. I think Dave's going to take a break. I think it's a good move. Really let Bobby maybe stew on that. Think about that shot a little more.
A little gamesmanship there.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, and that's an experienced move, I think. But yeah, I'm surprised he moved the 5. And then it sucks because
I don't think he was even trying to hit the 5. That's what I mean. He was threading the needle, getting by the 5, knowing it was tough. He eyed it for many.
So
I think he was just trying to get at the 1.
Lay on the 1 somehow.
Yeah, go across the 1 and really try to bury him. Where you got to really look at what's needed,
Right.
And who's the pressure on in this situation, and where's the pressure at? The pressure's really on David after running some balls and not getting out.
And I think that comes a little bit from playing more tournaments and having that situational awareness, knowing when you have to extend yourself, when you can just kind of hold pat.
Sure.
And let your opponent deal with it.
And it's a great, the best players, or if you want to improve, the mentality is I want to execute before my opponent does. That's how you become a great player. You stay aggressive. But you also have to pull on the reins knowing that I don't have to try and win it right here. It's going to come to me most likely. So,
how much of that do you think depends too on the personality of the player and kind of their disposition, right? Like sometimes you'll have a player that's just like wired all the way on the go side. You know what I mean? They just
you got to fight it. You know, both ways. If you're passive, you have to fight. Reminding yourself to be aggressive. Just like, sometimes technique. Some guys or maybe not technique, but they look at trying to make the shot the most simple as possible, right? Which is a great thing. But then at times, you have to realize that, hey, the right shot, I just got to go down with the right shot. A lot of guys, I see it a lot of times with amateurs, much more than pros, of course. make a great run of 6 or 7 balls to get out, and then they'll get on a 9 ball, and they'll just ease it to the hole, trying to make the pocket as big. They've been told pocket speed makes it easier.
Yeah.
Well, there's something also to you taking control of the hit, knowing it's going to be good.
Right.
Yeah, you know.
I think early on for me, I did one of the things I struggled with was just being my own player. I remember there was a couple years where I would say I would like look at certain player and try and emulate what they would do either with their stroke or how they would shoot certain balls. And I remember early on kind of getting trapped in that pattern. Like, why am I still trying to hit this ball like this person or this person? Like, when am I just going to hit the ball like me? You know what I mean? And I think when you get past all that and you've kind of assimilate some of the information and the head knowledge and get some of the reps in, then you say, this is the kind of player I want to create for myself, and I got to try and be true to that. And I think in any form of sporting or competition or expression, when you get to who you are at your core and you express that through whatever the game or the sport is, that's when you really figure yourself out and can reach your highest levels, right?
Right.
It's kind of an introspective thing. You got to do a lot of self-reflection and figure out where certain errors come from, where certain thought patterns come from, and where the breakdown is, and try and work on that. And those are real small details that kind of translate over time, and they get ironed out, when you kind of take some heartaches and take some licks and make some mistakes.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see, on the surface level, we see contrasting styles, but there's a lot, that they're going through on the inside. Okay, second ball break again. Some good activity.
Didn't see anything down.
No.
So going to be a choice here for Bobby Stovall to end this match and advance. And whoever loses this match will end up in 5th, 6th. Whoever advances will play Christian Tile at 3rd and 4th. At the same time, we'll have our hot seat match.
It's going to get exciting here in a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I'm interested to see how these next few rounds shake out. I haven't seen much of Abram play, but I know he's, the defending champion. He's got a chance to get to the finals. That's hard to do. Interested to see how he handles that and how his opponent handles that, because he just came back from a good win against Chris. And then, if Chris happens to get to the semis, it's going to be a good, talented batch of players in the end.
Yeah, and Blake, I've been around a little bit the last year or so in Vegas, and moving to Vegas from back in Iowa, and never really been around Abe till this week, but I kind of have a feeling that both of them are going to play some of their best pool of the week in the hot seat match.
It's a good time to do it.
Yes, it is. Nice shot there.
Nice shot there.
He was kind of forced to take the solids. Didn't really have. He had a cut shot on the 10, but it was missable, and I think both are runnable. So I think a good choice. You want to secure that first ball. That's
Absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah.
Now he's a little elevated on the 5. You can
He's
see that
in between a few different shots, right? He's like.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what I would do here.
It's kind of, if he shoots that 5, he's going into the 1 a little bit.
Yeah, you don't want to rub the 1 too much.
Right.
That's for sure.
So maybe
that's why I might shoot this 7 ball. To be honest with you. It's a little stretched.
Try and get around the spot, maybe. Give yourself some options.
Try and fall in that little area, and knowing you have the 2 still. Kind of decelerated on that one a little bit as well.
This is good. I think he can get on the 6 from here now.
Yeah, and then open up, right? Opens up the 1 and the 5, and then he can drop up to what will be a very clear middle of the table once the 2's gone.
Right.
For the 4. So that's absolutely the pattern that I like. As long as he's got that angle on the 2 to shove down for the 6 in the lower.
I think he really does.
Oh, he's got the 5 though, so that's okay.
Yeah.
And actually, the 2's not doing him much good, but it's not hurting him either. So he can wait on it if he wants and use that to get to the 4. But
I think I would have played the 2.
I would have too. Actually, the 2's not really helping you anymore. So.
And it's kind of like those preferences, right? Like trying to get balls out of the middle of the table. I think leaving the 2 and 4 last forces you to have really good cue ball position, because you might leave yourself an angle. Now you got to deal with his 2 stripes, and it can get a little squirrely, but he could get perfect too. So
yeah, and what we're talking about, what Raymond and I are talking about, is a long-term type of thing. I mean, it may not show up here, but what he's saying is, 1 out of 30 games or 2 out of 40 games or something that you lose behind just a little difference of pattern play, you might say, or decision making. It's just like we talk about it with the pros all the time. They're doing things that show up in a long-term kind of setting. It may not show up here, or the things they train for as well. Like the parts of pool that you train for as pros, it doesn't show up all the time, some of it. But you got to be prepared when it does, because, like I said, it's a long-term type of project.
Right, exactly. And at that level, it really matters, because the cost of an error is just too great, when you're dealing with.
And this is what I saw a second ago. I think when he missed that safety and really had to make a decision, is he kind of overthought it a little bit. And I kind of saw him getting into that again. Well, just simple, You played this pattern a certain way, stick to it, believe in it,
And just see it through the way you feel.
Yeah.
Right.
Now he could play for the 8 in the side if he wanted to gain the angle on the 4 to go by those 2 balls, 2 rails up, but I think probably just get heavy on it and draw back a foot, I think, for the 8 in the upper left-hand corner.
Right. Yeah, I think I agree with that too.
I mean, if you have to take the angle, that's one thing, but
it also depends on how he's on the 2 right now. So he took the angle, which tells me maybe he was a little straight, and if for him to get heavy, he would have had to been close to rail, maybe would have had to elevate his cue and draw back. So now he's just decided to go forward. So now he does have to contend with.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's right on that scratch angle too. If he lets up on this at all and doesn't get through the 4, he could go towards that corner. Okay, he got through it nice.
So he had a nice full
stroke.
There. That was good.
Well, David Rowell, one of our former champions, is
this is to win the match.
Yeah,
right?
is going to exit here, but he could exit with his head held high with another fine tournament. And really, Bobby just kind of took over the match early.
Had the equity where he can make a couple mistakes and still afford to, So that was a good match.
Well, thanks a lot, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us, and thank you, Raymond, for joining us. Yeah, I enjoyed it. And any spare time in the booth, we always
it's
happy
fun
to have you. And we'll be back shortly, ladies and gentlemen, with a couple matches. That'll be the 3rd, 4th match, and for 3rd and 4th place, and then also our hot seat match. So stay tuned. The U.S. Amateur coming to you live from Strokers in Palm Harbor, Florida.
Right.
Still impressive. That was it. Are you eating? Which one?